The apple is rotten, and the educational system is rotten to the core. Because, in essence, though some elements of it are edible, learning how to read and write, and how to calculate and etc. But when you look at the content of education itself, that it is not an education that is promoting an African to become African, but it is an education that is preparing an African to become an employee. We hardly find classes of innovation, entrepreneurship, resource management being taught from elementary level. Look at the Chinese educational system, where primary school kids and crash kids are already learning how to play with computers, already learning how to build gadgets and etc. And here we are as Africans busy teaching our kids how to preach and how to pray. So the educational system itself has not become relevant in terms of the school and academia producing an African who is prepared, number one, to challenge the status quo. Number two, to break down the colonial system. Three, be innovative to create parallel systems that favor the African. Four, beneficiate his own resources and make his own community productive. And five, share in with those resources with his community, and then the excess of their resources begin to create an international market. What we have as educated people are people who are full of papers, who are in the hobby of collecting papers, masters, doctorate, PhD, professor, this and that. At the end of the day, with all those degrees, people are still looking for jobs and employment. I am honest, therefore, when I say our educational institutions are manufacturing industries of fools, of employees. We're factories of employees, rather than converting the educational institutions into innovation, creativity, indigenization, entrepreneurship, so that when people graduate, they don't look for employment, but they become a solution to the problems that their countries are facing. So, yes, the legacy of education, we need an indigenous, African based, African motivated, African informed education. It's a crime for a young boy, a young girl growing up in the copper belt who does not know how to mine copper, what copper is used for, and how the copper underneath their own house can become a resource that can unlock their potential and drive them into the future. It's unfortunate that in the copper belt, we still don't have an industry, a manufacturing industry that is producing copper products, final products, so that we can talk about it and adding value, beneficiation of our own resources. So our educational system does not add value to our resources. It is just producing us to become marketable to the colonial system. That's why there is brain drain. Zambians, Zimbabweans, Nigerians are in Europe, are in America, and where? Why? Because they can't find the support base, not only employment, but our environments are not conducive for innovation. You were talking earlier on about me being chased away from the church. I forgive you for is not being chased away from the church. But the question is the church prepared to work with innovative people? People who are able to look at where we are coming from, look at where we are, look at where we are going, and begin to say, there is another way of doing church. There's another way of doing business. There's another way of doing politics. There's another way of doing economics. We don't have to always be watching these European soccer games. There's another way of putting our own sports on space. And education encapsulates the entire colonial system. Therefore, our education is colonized. As such, after political liberation, we also need academic liberation. We don't have to wait for people in Britain to tell me here that I'm now Dr. MAPONGA. When our own universities, Zambia University, Zimbabwe University, Namibia University, and the rest of African University, Makerere University, cannot recognize their own, I must wait for my books to be published in America and be used as books for training and educating people on spirituality. When our own African producing doctors out of my material, but my local universities and my local countries will not recognize what I'm doing, then how educated are we? If we cannot even recognize each other, our education is colonized and it must be liberated.